The Mongols were of course feared by women all over the world when they were invading, because let's be fair, they were rapists. So when people have found a common ancestor amongst Asians, going back about 800 to 1000 years ago, it's probably safe to assume it was Genghis Khan. In fact, 0.5% of the world's population can be traced back to him. Now this records male lineage, and Genghis Khan and his descendants were very good at producing sons. Even if you ignore the numerous women who were raped on campaigns, Tushi, his eldest son, had 40 legitimate children, Kublai Khan had about 20, and he had 30 women brought into his harem every year, so it's safe to assume they had a hell of a lot of sons. But I would say that this statistic isn't as impressive as what you might think. I should say that most of Genghis Khan's descendants are in Mongolia, northern China and Afghanistan. But anyway, even if you keep with male lineage, about a third of all Asians, that's well over 1 billion people, can trace their lineage back to about 11 men. Now most of these aren't known, but Genghis Khan's one, and another is believed to be Nurhaci's father. Now Nurhaci was the Manchu who attacked China when the Qing invaded the Ming. But if you look at female lineage as well, this number becomes even less significant. For instance, if you look at the 14 English kings between 1066 and about 1485, they had at least 40 illegitimate children that we know of. And it's been estimated that millions, or most, or if not all, of people with English ancestry are descended from these kings. But a statistician named Chang went one further, and he said out of the Europeans in 1000 AD, 20% of them have no descendants today. The remaining 80% are the ancestors of everybody. And he worked out that the most common ancestor of everybody with European heritage is only 600 years ago. So if you have European ancestry, you can safely assume that you are related to any king before 1400s, the likes of Charlemagne and Edward III. But this was all quite well known for a long time. For instance, in Victorian England, they traced the lineage of the Plantagenets, and they gave up because they just found too many people who were descended from them. But I think that the legend of Genghis Khan's descendants have survived for a couple of reasons. At the minute it's just interesting and it keeps being repeated, but I think in Asia a lot of rulers, Tamerlane was the most famous, claimed to be the descendant of Genghis Khan, and in Europe it survived because people thought that Down syndrome people had Mongol blood. Down syndrome was in fact called Mongol idiocy for a long time because they just thought that they had Mongol traits. And even in the 20s there was a book written called The Mongol in Our Midst, which argued that Down syndrome people had just inherited Mongol genes, in particular Genghis Khan's genes. And this calling Down syndrome Mongol idiocy went on until the 60s or 70s.